Thank you for inviting me to this panel. I was specifically asked to speak about privacy issues, and I'm going to situate my my panel statement on surveillance, because that is one of the major areas which I work on. So I run a center called Sesame, which is Sensor Enhanced Social Media, and one of the things which we are trying to do is we are trying to build the next generation surveillance system where we take signals not only from typical sensors like cameras and maybe it could be visual cameras, infrared cameras, or it could be audio sensors, anything. We are also looking at social sensors that a lot of social networking sites like Twitter, Facebook, Hardware Zone, a lot of these are actually sources of information, and also we are putting users as sensors, people with mobile phones, and they can be doing participatory sensing. They can be also users of the system. So we're trying to build this sense system, and effectively we are trying to look at combining signals at different levels. So they come from sensors, which is at raw level, then you have to interpret it, and then it comes from social media. It is already interpreted signals, and then how we can fuse all together. Okay? So this is kind of the background context. Now, in terms of surveillance, I think we are all familiar that surveillance is really, really increasing, and lots of cities are putting lots and lots of cameras. By the way, this is from one of the MRT stations. So next time you go there, you can see this nice 6-camera kind of a rack hanging there at the MRT station, looking at you. So cameras are there in lots of places. So the question I really want to ask is, do you mind being watched by a bunch of strangers in a control room like that? That they're watching every action, and then looks like that a lot of people do mind actually. Maybe the undergraduates at SMU don't, but there are people who do mind. And there are serious privacy concerns that do you really, really want to be kind of tracked by people, and that there is scope for misuse of that. Okay? And in fact there are certain organizations, especially in Europe, they are actually actively trying to push back surveillance, that why are you watching me? So from our perspective, from a research perspective, is that I think given that there are safety issues, that it looks like that there is no escaping this necessary evil called surveillance. So the question is, how can you do surveillance yet protect the privacy of citizens? So this is what one of the issues we've been looking at. And of course, a lot of solutions actually focus on masking the face. So the idea is that if you somehow mask out the face, then you're guaranteeing privacy. If you expose the face, then you're basically losing privacy. But in my opinion, this is very an explicit channel. However, is hiding facial information enough? And the answer is no, because if you know what is the place, you know what is the time, you know certain type of behavior. Like I have a tendency to put my hands in my pocket, right? Even if you mask my face, you know who the person is. So there are a lot of implicit channels through which privacy leakage occurs. So it is not just enough to block explicit channels. So some of the hard questions in terms of when you're going to do surveillance is, how do you model the privacy loss through these implicit channels, not just the explicit channels? Secondly, how can you block these channels? And of course, if you try to do something which kind of gives you perfect privacy, so for example, encrypt everything, but it becomes unusable. So how do you actually do the utility of this data, which is actually do the surveillance task without compromising its security? And therefore, how to build privacy aware and privacy respecting surveillance system. So I just want to show you some of our work. So one of the things which we have explored is doing some kind of a data transformation. So I'll just play a very short video. So the idea is that if you do certain types of transformations, so we are doing a combination of blurring and quantization with some kind of a mask, then you can't detect faces, you can't detect text. So then you are kind of giving some assurance of privacy. So then the question is, if you do this kind of a transformation, for example, will it still be usable? And I'll show you that. So for example, you do that, the original video which was unblurred, you can do block detection in order to do the tracking, and then you blur that video and then you do the same block detection. And So it still works. Okay, so the block detection still works in this highly blurred video. Of course, what we found is the real problem is that many simple operations like block detection, block tracking, you can do this transformation which kind of blocks out all the channels of leakage, and still you can do whatever you want to do. But harder problems like you want to do recognition without giving out the identity, or you want to do correlation of multiple people's tracks, and that's very hard to do. So these are very challenging problems. So we don't have any good solutions to do that. Okay. To me, the real question is the problem are not just of surveillance when we install cameras, is the coming mobile sensing surveillance. So I mean, people are talking about Google glasses, and people are kind of wearing this thing. So there's going to be mobile sensing everywhere, and what is going to happen is that there's going to be sensing done not only in fixed places where people can be warned that you're being sensed, but it could be sensed by anywhere. Okay? In fact, it's going to get worse. For example, Singapore just last week, I think they announced that the police personnel in Singapore are going to go with a camera attached. So wherever they go, it will get recorded. And I believe this is also true in LA. They are equipping certain people with cameras. So the question is that there are going to be security personnel who are recording data. Also, I think there are a lot of places, for example, in Singapore, there's a website called Stomp, which encourages people to kind of post their own videos. So the question is, so to me, these are some of the challenging questions. That if you're going to be wearing such mobile devices, then how are you going to capture and transmit data without constantly recharging the batteries? I think that is going to be a huge issue for this community. Then of course, if you assuming that you recorded all of this, then how do you search, retrieve, and summarize this massive amount of data? I think that is the second problem. And this is a very specific kind of a recording, because this video is very specific. Basically it's egocentric videos, where it is a first-person perspective. So a lot of this analysis is done on a third-person perspective. Now we're talking about a first-person perspective. Okay? And the third and the foremost thing is, how do you avoid getting caught in other people's cameras? So for example, people are wearing Google Glasses or devices like this, and I'm talking to Rajesh, but while I'm talking to Rajesh, maybe Rajesh doesn't mind being recorded in my glass, but then people behind will get recorded. And then, so there is this whole notion of being unintended capture of people. And you're randomly walking somewhere and you get captured in somebody's Google Glasses who posts somewhere. And, and that has kind of privacy implications. So how do you kind of make sure that such devices don't capture you? I think I don't see any easy solution for that, unless it kind of flashes or beeps. That's all I want to say. I just want to raise issues. I don't have solutions.